My brother's in-laws came to our all-inclusive vacation with no luggage or money. I left at sunrise. I freeze in the shadows near the tiki bar, my mojito nearly slipping from my fingers as my sister-in-law's voice cuts through the humid Florida night. I told you it would work. Penelope's rolling in money now, and she's too sweet to say no. My brother's in-laws laugh about their scheme to exploit my generosity, unaware I'm standing just feet away, hearing every calculated word of their betrayal. In that moment, watching the family I trusted toast to how brilliantly they've manipulated me, something inside me shatters beyond repair. Hi, my name is Penelope. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. 4 years ago, I finally hit it big with my online business. After 6 years of grinding, barely making rent, and questioning my life choices, things finally clicked. My handcrafted jewelry designs went viral on social media, and suddenly I had more orders than I could handle. I owed a lot of that success to my brother, Graham. You can crash in the spare bedroom as long as you need, Graham had told me during my lowest point. I believe in you, sis. For 8 months, I lived in that tiny guest room, using his basement as my workspace while Graham and his wife Bridget put up with the chaos of beads, wire and packaging materials everywhere. They never complained, not once. So when my business took off, I knew exactly how to thank them. I booked a week-long stay at Coral Key Resort, an all-inclusive luxury property on the Gulf Coast of Florida. The kind of place with cascading waterfalls, private cabanas, and staff who remember your favorite drink. This is insane, Graham said when we arrived, eyes wide as the valet took our rental SUV. You didn't have to do this. You guys are the reason I'm not still waiting tables, I replied. Considerate interest on that bedroom rental. Bridget practically screamed when she saw out beachfront suites. I can't believe we're staying here for a whole week. Our rooms were side by side with patios overlooking the emerald waters. Mine had a king bed with impossibly soft Egyptian cotton sheets and a bathroom bigger than my first studio apartment. Monica, our personal concierge, gave us a tour of the property. The specialty restaurants require reservations, she explained, gesturing toward a rooftop establishment with panoramic views, but they're all included in your package, Miss Penelope. That first evening, we had dinner at the beachfront steakhouse. The sunset painted everything pink and orange as we clinked glasses of Prosecco. To Penelope, Graham toasted. The best sister anyone could ask for. I was feeling pretty good about myself until I noticed Bridget step away from the table, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was low, but her gestures were animated. When she returned, her smile seemed forced. Everything okay? I asked. Just checking on the neighbor who's feeding our cat, she said quickly. Later that night, as I was drifting off to sleep with the sound of waves crashing outside, a sharp knock jolted me awake. The bedside clock read 11:52 p.m. I stumbled to the door, confused and groggy. I wasn't prepared for who I'd find standing in the hallway. Standing in the hallway were an older couple I recognized from Graham's wedding photos, Warren and Colleen, Bridget's parents. Warren had the same thin lips as his daughter, while Colleen's auburn hair looked fresh from an expensive salon. Surprise! Colleen exclaimed, arms outstretched like she expected a hug. Between them sat 2 small carry-on bags, barely enough for a weekend, let alone a resort stay. What are you doing here? I asked, still half asleep. Bridget told us about this amazing vacation, Warren explained, already stepping into my room uninvited. We couldn't resist joining. Hope you don't mind. Before I could process what was happening, Graham and Bridget appeared behind them. Isn't this wonderful? Bridget beamed. Mom and Dad had some vacation days saved up, so I suggested they join us. Graham gave me an apologetic glance. They can get their own room, right? The resort isn't fully booked. The next morning at breakfast, Warren ordered the premium champagne flight. Put it on Penelope's tab, he told the server with a wink. Actually, I interjected, maybe we should. Nonsense, Colleen interrupted. Penelope is so generous. That's why we adore her. Throughout the day, I watched in disbelief as Warren and Colleen made themselves completely at home. They booked couples massage packages, reserved spots on an exclusive dolphin watching tour, and ordered the most expensive items on every menu. Our luggage got lost at the airport, Colleen explained to a staff member at the resort boutique while selecting designer cover-ups and swimwear. Just add these to room 428. My room number. That evening, I checked my account on the resort's app. My jaw dropped. They'd added over $1,100 in charges in a single day. When I approached Graham about it, he shrugged. They've had a rough year financially. Dad's construction company isn't doing great. Can't you just cover it? You're doing well now. That's not the point, I said, my frustration building. They invited themselves on our trip and now they're spending my money without asking. Their family, Graham replied, as if that explained everything. Later that night, I headed to the tiki bar for a moment of peace. The Florida humidity wrapped around me like a blanket as I approached, and that's when I heard familiar voices around the corner. I told you it would work, Bridget was saying. Penelope's rolling in money now, and she's too sweet to say no. Smart girl, Warren laughed. Why pay for a vacation when your sister-in-law will foot the bill? And this place is much nicer than we could ever afford. Just keep acting grateful, Colleen added. And tomorrow, let's book that deep-sea fishing excursion. It's over $1,000, but who's counting? I froze, my blood turning cold despite the tropical heat. This wasn't a spontaneous visit. This was a calculated plan to exploit my generosity. My hands trembled as I backed away from the bar, the sound of their laughter following me into the night. The family I'd trusted, the people I'd invited on this dream vacation to show my gratitude, had been using me all along. I needed to figure out what to do next. The morning after overhearing their scheme, I cornered Graham on the beach while Bridget and her parents were getting complimentary facials at the spa. Did you know about this? I demanded. That Warren and Colleen planned this all along. Graham avoided my eyes, drawing patterns in the sand with his flip-flop. Look, they've been struggling financially. Dad's medical bills from his hip surgery, their mortgage payments. So you decided I should pay for their luxury vacation without even asking me? I said, my voice rising. They showed up with practically no luggage and no money, Graham. Their family, Graham insisted. We help family. I helped you when you needed it, I replied, my throat tight with anger and hurt. I never took advantage of you like this. As I walked away, Kevin, the resort manager, approached me with a concerned expression. Miss Penelope, may I have a word? In his office, Kevin showed me the mounting charges on a computer screen. I noticed unusual spending patterns on your account. The guests in your party have attempted to charge several exclusive experiences to your room without your explicit authorization. How bad is it? I asked, dreading the answer. Nearly $6,200 in 3 days, Kevin replied, including a chartered deep-sea fishing trip for tomorrow that costs $1,800. I rubbed my temples, feeling a migraine building. I never authorized that. I suspected as much, Kevin nodded sympathetically. Some staff members mentioned that the older couple has been quite vocal about their free vacation. They've been telling other guests how generous their daughter's sister-in-law is. That evening at dinner, I watched silently as Warren ordered another $250 bottle of wine, while Colleen complained about the lobster being too small. Bridget kept shooting me nervous glances, but said nothing. I excused myself early, claiming exhaustion. As I walked back to my room, I heard their whispers following me like ghosts. When I tried to enter my suite, my keycard didn't work. The magnetic strip had been deactivated. At the front desk, Kevin apologized profusely. Someone requested new keys to your room earlier this afternoon, claiming they'd lost theirs, he explained while programming a new card. I'm so sorry, that shouldn't have happened without verifying with you first. Inside my room, I found drawers partially open and my suitcase moved. My laptop had been relocated to the nightstand, though nothing was missing. My passport had been moved from the safe to my carry-on bag. The message was clear. They'd had access to everything. My hands shook as I checked my banking app. Someone had tried to access it from another device earlier that day. The login attempt had been blocked by two-factor authentication. That night, as I lay awake listening to the Gulf waves crash against the shore, I made my decision. I'd be gone before the sun rose over the horizon. Some family ties weren't worth the cost. The trust was broken. The relationship was damaged beyond repair. And I wasn't going to let them take another dollar from me. The alarm on my phone buzzed at 4:45 a.m. I silenced it quickly and packed my remaining belongings in the dark. Outside, the sky was still navy blue with just a hint of coral beginning to appear on the horizon. The sound of distant waves reminded me of what this vacation was supposed to be: peaceful, joyful, a celebration of family bonds that actually meant something. Kevin was waiting for me at the front desk as promised. His face showed understanding rather than judgment. A single lamp illuminated the otherwise empty lobby, and the early morning silence felt sacred. "I've prepared your bill, Miss Penelope," he said, sliding a leather folder across the marble counter. "I've separated your legitimate charges from the additional expenses. The difference is quite substantial." "Thank you," I replied, handing over my credit card. "I'll only be paying for my original booking and my personal charges." "What will happen to them?" I asked, not out of concern, but curiosity. "The resort requires valid payment for all services," Kevin explained, his voice professional but kind. "If they cannot provide it, they will need to depart immediately or settle their bill in full. Our policy is quite strict regarding unpaid balances. We've dealt with situations like this before." As I signed the receipt, Kevin handed me a sealed paper bag and an envelope. "Your breakfast to go, blueberry muffins and coffee, and a voucher for your next visit. We value honest guests at Coral Key Resort." Outside, the sky was transforming from indigo to brilliant tangerine. The Uber was waiting, engine humming quietly. The driver, an older gentleman named Curtis, helped me with my luggage. "Early flight?" he asked kindly. "Something like that," I replied. As we pulled away, I caught one last glimpse of the resort, beautiful, exclusive, and now forever associated with betrayal. The palm trees swayed in the pre-dawn breeze, and I felt a weight lifting from my chest. I turned off my phone, knowing what would soon follow. I'd booked a room at a small boutique hotel on the other side of Clearwater Beach, far enough away that they'd never find me. The drive took 40 minutes. Curtis played soft jazz on the radio and didn't ask questions. When we arrived at the Sea Glass Inn, a charming property with only 12 rooms, the sun was fully up and painting the world gold. Hours later, after a long nap in my peaceful new room, I finally powered my phone back on. It immediately erupted with notifications. "Graham, Penelope, where are you? We can't find you anywhere. Bridget, this isn't funny. Mom and Dad are worried. Graham, the resort says your payment authorization is gone. They're asking us for a credit card. Bridget, they're threatening to call security if we don't pay. You can't do this to us. Graham, Warren and Colleen don't have enough on their cards. This is cruel, sis. Bridget, they're making us pack our things. Mom is crying. Is this what you wanted? Graham, the manager is escorting us out. We have to find our own way to the airport. Bridget, I'll never forgive you for this humiliation. My finger hovered over the messages. I didn't respond. The messages kept coming throughout the day, each one more desperate and angry than the last. Graham, we're stuck at the Tampa airport for 6 hours waiting for standby seats. Warren and Colleen had to buy new clothes from a gift shop because they barely packed anything. Bridget, I thought you were better than this, Penelope. Family is supposed to stick together. Graham, our flight is delayed another 2 hours. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Mom won't stop crying. Bridget, the airport Starbucks wouldn't even let Mom use the bathroom without buying something. We're spending our last dollars on overpriced coffee. I hope you're happy with yourself. Graham, we finally got home. The neighbors are asking questions about why we're back early. Do you know how embarrassing this is? I put my phone on silent and walked out to my new private balcony. Below me stretched a different beach, just as beautiful, but untainted by betrayal. Families played in the sand, couples walked hand in hand along the water's edge, and seagulls called overhead. For the first time in days, I took a deep breath that didn't feel heavy with resentment. I stayed at the Sea Glass Inn for the rest of the week. The owner, a kind woman named Dorothy, made fresh cinnamon rolls every morning. I spent my days reading on the beach, taking long walks, and slowly processing everything that had happened. On my last evening there, I finally opened my laptop and typed out a single message to Graham. I overheard everything at the tiki bar. Bridget, Warren, and Colleen planned this from the beginning. They came with no money, no luggage, and every intention of using me. You knew about it, or at least you knew enough to not stop it. I invited you on this trip to thank you for helping me when I was struggling. Instead, you allowed your in-laws to exploit my gratitude. I need time to process this betrayal. Don't contact me until you're ready to take real accountability. I hit send and closed the laptop. 2 weeks later, I heard through our cousin Jennifer that the story had spread through the family. Warren and Colleen had become the talk of their neighborhood, and their reputation for mooching was finally catching up with them. Apparently, they'd tried this tactic with other relatives before. Bridget's aunt had paid for a spontaneous trip to Nashville 2 years ago, and a cousin had covered an expensive dinner cruise in Charleston. Dominic and Bridget were struggling to salvage their dignity. Our mother had called Graham demanding to know what happened, and when she heard the full story, she'd been furious with him for allowing it. I never received an apology from any of them, just bitter accusations and blame. Warren sent me a 3-paragraph email calling me selfish and ungrateful. Colleen left a voicemail saying I'd broken their hearts. Bridget blocked me on all social media. Graham sent one text, "I'm sorry you feel hurt, but you overreacted. They're family." I didn't respond. But as I sat on my apartment balcony back home in Charlotte, watching the sunset with a clear conscience, I realized some bridges are worth burning. The weeks following my return home were quieter than I expected. My jewelry business kept me busy, orders were still pouring in, and I'd hired 2 part-time assistants to help with fulfillment. But the silence from Graham felt like a physical presence in my life. Our mother, Patricia, called me repeatedly. "Honey, I know what they did was wrong, but he's your brother. Can't you two work this out?" "Mom, he betrayed my trust. He let his in-laws use me, and he doesn't even see what he did wrong. I raised him better than that," she sighed. "I told him he needs to apologize properly. A real apology, not that 'I'm sorry you feel hurt' nonsense." "I appreciate that, Mom, but I need him to come to that realization himself." My best friend Amanda came over one evening with Chinese takeout and wine. We sat on my balcony, the Charlotte skyline twinkling in the distance. "You did the right thing," Amanda said, pouring us each a glass of Chardonnay. "What they did was calculated and cruel. You don't owe them forgiveness just because they share your DNA." "I keep replaying it in my head," I admitted. "The way they laughed about manipulating me. Like it was some brilliant scheme." "Because they thought you'd never find out," Amanda replied. "That's what makes it worse. They weren't even ashamed of themselves." I took a sip of wine. "The hardest part is Graham. I lived with him for 8 months. He saw me at my lowest point, eating ramen for dinner, crying over failed sales, wondering if I'd ever make it. And then when I finally succeeded and wanted to celebrate with him, he let them turn it into a con. He chose his wife's family over his integrity," Amanda said simply. "That's on him, not you." Over the following month, I threw myself into work and self-care. I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Reynolds, who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. "What you experienced is called financial exploitation," Dr. Reynolds explained during one session. "It's more common than people realize, especially among family members. The expectation that you should just let it go because their family is manipulative in itself." "I feel guilty sometimes," I confessed. "Like maybe I should have just paid for everything and kept the peace." "Let me ask you something," Dr. Reynolds leaned forward. "If a stranger had snuck into your hotel room, gone through your belongings, and charged thousands of dollars to your account without permission, would you feel guilty about pressing charges?" "Of course not. Then why should blood relation change the fundamental wrongness of what happened to you?" That session was a turning point. I realized I'd been carrying shame that didn't belong to me. I'd been the victim of a scheme, and my only crime was trusting family members who didn't deserve that trust. I started dating again, nothing serious, just coffee dates and casual dinners. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while building my business. I took a weekend trip to Savannah with Amanda and spent 2 glorious days eating pralines and touring historic homes. Life, slowly but surely, began to feel lighter. 3 months after the disastrous vacation, Graham finally called. Not a text. Not an email. An actual phone call. I stared at his name on my screen for 3 rings before answering. "Hello? Penelope." His voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying. "Can we talk? In person?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments, neutral territory. When I arrived, Graham was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled Duke sweatshirt. "I ordered your usual," he said quietly. "Vanilla latte, extra shot." I sat down across from him, saying nothing. "I've been going to counseling," he started. "Individual sessions, and marriage counseling with Bridget. Our therapist asked me to write down everything that happened from your perspective. To really see it through your eyes." He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket, but didn't open it. "Penelope, I was so wrapped up in keeping Bridget happy, in being the supportive husband, that I completely failed you as a brother." His voice cracked. "You invited us on that trip to thank us for helping you. And instead of protecting you, I let her parents use you. I knew they were struggling financially. I knew they had a pattern of this behavior. And I said nothing." Tears were streaming down his face now. "When you left that morning, I was angry at first. I thought you were being petty and dramatic. But then Warren and Colleen started demanding that I pay their bill. They said it was my responsibility as family. And when I couldn't cover $6,000 on the spot, they turned on me. Called me worthless, said Bridget married beneath her." He laughed bitterly. "That's when I finally saw them clearly. When they couldn't use you anymore, they tried to use me." I took a sip of my latte, letting him continue. "Bridget and I almost separated," he admitted. "She defended them at first. Said you were being cruel. But when her parents started demanding money from us for their other bills, when they showed up at our house expecting us to pay for things, she finally understood. We've set boundaries now. Her parents aren't welcome in our home until they get their own financial situation sorted out." "That must have been hard," I said carefully. "It was necessary," Graham replied. "Penelope, I can't undo what happened. I can't give you back that vacation or erase the betrayal. But I'm asking, begging, for a chance to rebuild trust. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness right now. But maybe someday, I can earn it back." I looked at my brother, really looked at him. I saw genuine remorse, not just regret at getting caught. I saw someone who'd done the hard work of examining his own failures. "I'm not ready to go back to how things were," I said honestly. "That relationship is gone. But maybe we can build something new. Something with better boundaries and mutual respect." Graham nodded, wiping his eyes. "I'll take that. Whatever pace you need." As I drove home that evening, I realized something important. The most expensive lesson I ever paid for was learning that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect and boundaries. And sometimes walking away at sunrise is the only way to preserve your self-worth. But sometimes, not always but sometimes, bridges can be rebuilt from ashes. If both people are willing to do the work. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries, finding your worth, and knowing when to walk away.